What other mental conditions do you see? More OCD or self-harm? What else is rising along with anxiety?
So I also see, I mean, we call it comorbidity. It's when an individual experiences more than one mental concern, mental health disorder. So I do see a lot of overlap with anxiety and depression. Those tend to go hand in hand. Depression is all about, it's not all about, but part of what reinforces depression is that we pull away when we're feeling that things are not going well. When our mood is low, we kind of withdraw, and that gets further reinforced by anxiety. And so I do see both of those increasing at the same time. OCD, yes, I definitely saw more OCD cases related to cleanliness, and we call it contamination OCD. So this concern of getting sick, of illness, of being dirty. So I certainly see that. PTSD as well, so trauma related disorders. ADHD is a big one, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So I would say kind of across the board, we're seeing more sensitivity to, or more specificity in diagnosis. And so we are seeing increases generally across the board in diagnosing these disorders. This doesn't necessarily mean that the whole entire population percentage wise, that the prevalence is increasing, but that we're getting better at identifying it, as well as perhaps some of these large foundational experiences, like what's happening in the world, what's happening more microscopically in each individual's lives, are contributing to increases in diagnosis.
What do you think is the role of smartphones and social media and all this? Do you see it makes teens more one way or another, or you don't think it has much effect?
I think it definitely has an effect. This is certainly out of my research expertise, but I can certainly speak to what I see in my sessions, which is that there's a really positive component to phones, to teens having access to phones, in that, and this conversation comes up a lot, it is social connection. It can really mean the difference between feeling connected to your friends and not. The nature of relationships has changed. We stay in contact, whether you're talking about teens or adults, we stay in contact with our phones. That's how we text each other, we FaceTime, we call, we email, we whatever. And so that's the same for teens. And I have lots of teens who will play games online with their friends. And that's a different medium, but it can be a way of staying socially connected. I also see that I've had teens in my office who are describing being like bullied online, and that can happen pretty covertly. There are platforms that allow that to happen, and then for messages to be erased, and for it to be really hard to find a record of these things. And so, and therefore hard for that individual to get support. So, and that's not the only like pitfall of having a phone, but I think we're all concerned about media exposure, social media exposure. And I think we're trying to figure out, I think my strategy in talking with parents is being very thoughtful of how they talk about and educate their child on appropriate use of a phone, talking about what sites they're allowed to go on, what if they're allowed to have social media, at what age they're allowed to. And really that's family dependent. But I think that's a really important conversation to have. But like I said, I don't have expertise on that. I just know what I'm seeing, and that there are very clear pros and very clear cons.